Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan, Nocturne Knives. I'm coming at you with a quick first impressions video of this Damned Designs Fenrir. I just got the work on this all finished up for my customer Ethan of @trans_EDC on Instagram. I'll put that linked in the description. Definitely go check them out. They're doing cool stuff. They're two super nice guys. This is the Damned Designs Fenrir. It's a titanium Linerlock in 14C28 in steel flipper. You got the Wharncliffe blade, and I don't know who these are made by. I'm gonna guess QSP, maybe. That's just a guess. It's some Chinese OEM. I don't remember if Damned Designs advertises that anywhere. Cannot remember. If you do know the answer to that, go drop a comment down below. I would love to know. Be very interested. So I did a fair bit of work to this. I'll put a video or picture or something of what it used to look like up in the top left. In talking to Ethan, he wanted some anodizing work done on this. It used to be just a plain stone wash on the handles and kind of a dark blast on the hardware and everything. So I took it and gave it a green ano and then did gold for the hardware, clip, and backspacer, kind of a Green Lantern theme, which is what he wanted, and I think it came out really cool. Also did some light distressing on the handle. You can see kind of around these highlights, and then anode that bronze, and the same thing around the edges of the handle and on the inside edges. So just kind of some bronze poking through all over the handle. I'm very happy with how it came out. I think it looks really good. This is only my second full knife anodizing project, and it was real fun. I'm happy with how it came out. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. You like this color combo? You like the work? I'd love to know, hear your opinion. And then I also sharpened this up. I took it to a near mirror polish on my Veneve stones, and it is super, super sharp. There's a bit of paper. I mean, absolutely just gliding through. So yeah, that's the knife. If you want to see some size comparisons, I did that in my unboxing. I'll link that in the top right corner. A lot of size comparisons in there, so I won't do any in this video. I'll do a couple measurements though. So blade stock, we're looking at, it's a little bit on the thick side at 0.15, 156 thousandths, so definitely a little on the thick side. It's kind of deceivingly thick, actually. I really did think it was thinner than that. Handle is coming in at 0.55, so a bit over half an inch. A little on the thick side, but nothing too crazy. This is actually one of the things I really like about it, is the blade grind is really nice and thin. You're looking at about 15 and a half thousandths behind the edge. Really thin. Like, look at the tip. It comes down to a really nice acute tip. Feels thin. It's good, and the steel, it felt nice on the stones. It felt hard. It felt real hard, which is good. But it was nice, easy to sharpen up. 14C28, going to be really nice to work with. And I love this Wharncliffe blade, so we'll just go on and get into the things I like. So first is going to be the blade on this. I was talking about the thin grind, really nice, and then I really like the Wharncliffe. Like, this shape is really nice, aggressive. The very straight edge. It has just the slightest bit of curve up towards the tip. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell, just in like the last half inch or so. I think that's mostly due to a sharpening error from factory, but it has the tiniest bit of curve. Really, it is a very, very straight edge. It's a pretty solid Wharncliffe. The tip is nice and aggressive and thin. Gonna be really good for slicing, cutting things, utility tasks, all that kind of stuff. So I actually love the blade on this. And it's pretty thick, not obscenely so though, and they do a great job in the grind of getting it down to a thin edge. So I'm definitely into it. Next thing I like is the action. It's really, really good on this. Actually, I was impressed. I think this is kind of a budget knife. I'm pretty sure it comes in at or around $100, which for a full tie Linerlock is not a bad price at all. That's, I think, why you see the 14C28 is because it's kind of in that semi-budget territory. But for that low cost, the action is really, really good. The detent, I'll let you listen. really snaps. It's a nice snappy detent, and the blade just flies open when you press the flipper tab. And then on the closing, it's not a dropper. It doesn't like drop shut, but just little flicks, little movements really just send the blade kind of skating back into the handle. It's really nice. And you can see the detent here. Yeah, you can see a nice positive detent. Really good action. I'm quite happy with the action. Very fun, very smooth. Next thing I like is the lock access and disengagement. You can see there's a really fairly large and fairly deep cutout on the show side, and then you get a bit of jimping here, which just all makes it really, really easy to come in here and disengage the liner lock. And you have such a large space to do so. I mean, the cutout goes here to here. You have nearly an inch of space to kind of push your thumb in and hit that liner lock, and it's so easy to disengage. I really like that lock bar access. That's definitely a peeve of mine, is bad lock bar access or a limited space in which there is lock bar access, but this, it's really easy to go and push it over. Next is going to be the materials. So the 14C28 for the price, again, I'm pretty sure that's the price. For around $100, that's a solid steal to be on this. And then the titanium on either side feels actually really nice. It has a super nice, smooth stonewash on it. The machining and all the lines feels really good. The materials, I like them. They feel appropriate for this knife and where I'm pretty sure the price is. Next is going to be the ergonomics. So I actually really like these ergos. The handle seems a little weird, especially up in this section, but my 3 fingers wrap into this dip here, and then pinky goes on the other side of this point. It splits the difference between my pinky and ring finger really well, and it feels really locked in and comfortable in a variety of grips. So you got saber grip, feels good, hammer grip, really nice, and then pinch grip. There's nothing poking you up here as you're pinching and pushing down. So ergonomics on this are actually quite good. Draw cut, not bad at all. Draw pinch is pretty solid. The only issue I kind of have is the lock bar jimping. I think depending on the kind of cutting, you're kind of going to be hitting it here with your pointer finger, but I don't think it's that bad, actually. I think that probably wouldn't be an issue in cutting. Again, I haven't used this. Obviously, it's not my knife, so I really don't know how it's going to perform in a lot of cutting tasks and things like that. If you have one, let me know how the ergos are for you. I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment down below. Okay, I'll talk about a few neutrals before we move on to dislikes, because there are a couple things on this knife that are just kind of neutrals for me. So first is going to be the aesthetics. I really don't mind the way this looks, but I also don't love it. It's kind of, which is weird because it seems like kind of a polarizing design, right? It seems like kind of a love it or hate it thing. I am just kind of neutral on it. It has some interesting lines. I like the Wharncliffe blade, but the handle shape with this hump right here, aesthetically, I'm really not that into it. I think it would be better as a straighter handle profile without this hump. So I'm really just kind of so-so on the aesthetics. I like some parts of it. I am not too crazy about this bit of the handle, but the blade is cool, but it has kind of it flows kind of weird, in my opinion. So I'm so-so on the aesthetics. Next neutral is going to be this clip. I don't mind it. It's an all right clip. I think the clearance is just a little bit low though. This might hang up or get stuck a bit on some types of pants, and the ramp seems just a little bit low on the front. I also think it's, if anything, too deep. I like a deep carry just as much as anyone, but I don't really like when the clip goes past the end of the knife. I feel like it just gets buried too deep in the pocket. Maybe that's just me, but it's not a huge deal. I don't mind it so much. Oh, and also I should mention it is centered, which is nice. It's actually pretty well centered. Okay, now for a couple dislikes. So my first dislike is going to be some of the build quality aspects. For example, this pivot here, you can see there's kind of a big irregular space. There's the focus. Kind of a big irregular space up here around the top. And then the spacing gets really tight down here. It's just not sat that well in there. Actually, that's kind of my only fit and finish gripe about it. is the pivot, but it actually kind of really annoys me. So I don't know, I hate it's because it's so obvious, because it's kind of a cool looking pivot. It's got some design on it, but for it to just be not properly fit in the handle, I feel like that's a big miss. So I really, really dislike that. Another dislike, it's kind of heavy and a little bit chunky. Like, it's thick, it's fairly heavy. It's a bit of a chunk, say, in your pocket, in your hand, and the balance is pretty far back. You can see here, it's almost approaching the 2/3 mark on the handle. I'd like it if it were up here, right where your pointer finger would be as you're holding it. So it's just a bit handle heavy. Again, I feel like you could chop off a lot of this handle and it would look better. The ergonomics probably wouldn't be impacted, and then the weight and balance would be better. So I think that'd be a bit of an improvement. My next dislike is going to be this sharpening choil. Well, I do appreciate they put a sharpening choil in, but this sharpening choil is way too small. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's way too small, but here you can see after even just one sharpening, I'm already running into it. I'm not running into it too bad, but it's definitely not as big as it really needed to be. On the bright side, this would be an easy choil extension, a very easy one. Just take it back up about 1/8, 1/16 of an inch, and you'd be just fine through the next couple sharpenings. But as is, it's just a little bit too small, so that's kind of a gripe. Again, it was pretty easy to sharpen and really didn't cause too many issues, but it's definitely too small. Okay, and now my biggest dislike. So the construction on this, the actual, how it's put together, the design of it on the inside is, in my opinion, not good at all. So it's really weird, actually. You've got, so for locating points, this thing has locating points for days. You have the pivot, there's a stop pin that's shouldered into the liners, obviously. There's a locating pin here for this bit of the backspacer, and then there's another pin that goes through this screw hole, and it connects these two screws, the screw here and then the top clip screw. But the weird thing about it, and it goes through the backspacer, but the weird thing about it is it's a loose pin that just floats back and forth that both of the screws fit into. So it just makes it really annoying to put together, because you've got all these pins that you have to line up just right. Say you're putting it together like this, that you have to get the liner lined up with, and then the titanium scale on top, you have to get them all lined up really carefully on all these pins. And all the while, the pin here is loose, so it's going back and forth. Even when you have this screw and the filler tab on it, that's not connected to anything, so it's going back and forth. And then the real issue is the fitment of this pin here. The pin for these top two screws is so tight with the pivot that it's incredibly difficult to get handle scale to go onto the pivot and this pin. It took me literally probably 20 minutes to reassemble this thing the first time, because I kept trying different ways to squeeze it together and get these pins to sit in, the pivot pin and then this pin back here. I kept trying to find ways to get them both to go on there, and finally I managed to kind of wedge them both on there, and then I had to pull the scale and handle together with this screw. It was a whole mess, and really not kind of a user-friendly design in terms of disassembly and maintenance. So I think a slight redesign of this knife would be really good, actually. Eliminate the pin here and the pin here that go through the backspacer and these screws go into, and just make the backspacer have some shouldered kind of pins that come out from it that lock into the handle, and then these screws can thread straight into the backspacer. And if you do that, you wouldn't have these pins constantly falling and floating around everywhere, and it would just eliminate the hassle in terms of disassembling, reassembly, maintenance, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like it'll make production easier, because it's easier to assemble. You have fewer parts. So that would be my suggestion for a slight revision, and then also kind of take this hump down a little bit. I think that would be a good change for this knife. If you have one of these and you ran into that reassembly issue, Drop me a comment down below. How much of a problem was it for you? Was it even a problem? Did you notice, or did yours go super well? Oh, and another like, actually, I'll go back to one more like, is this lanyard hole. The lanyard attachment system, really nice. I do like this quite a lot, actually. It's buried down there between the handles, and it uses a cutout in the backspacer. I think that's a really nice design. So that's a good touch. You don't have a big lanyard hole drilled through here somewhere. Oh, and I should also mention this thing is pretty well skeletonized out on the inside. Hope you'll be able to see that. You can see it both on the solid show side, and that's kind of cool. The show side is totally solid, and then the lock side has an inset liner lock. But you can see some milling into that liner as well. That, I think, is everything that I wanted to talk about regarding this knife. My final thoughts on it are, I like this knife a fair amount. The action is really nice. The design is pretty good, especially the blade. I love the blade on this. The blade and the cutting. The steel is going to be a solid budgety choice. I really like a lot of things about this. The ergos, the quality of the handles, the milling all felt really nice. And again, the action, I think, is maybe, I don't know, my two favorite things about this are going to be the blade and then the action. I think the blade is my favorite. This nice, aggressive Wharncliffe, super pointy, really nice thin grind. I love that a lot. But then right behind that is going to be the action. So those are my two favorite things about this knife. And I feel like they really carry it pretty far, those two aspects. There are some things I dislike about it, some quality aspects like this gap in the pivot, and then the clip is not necessarily my favorite, but really my biggest dislike is going to be the reassembly issues that I ran into with all the stupid pins. That was a whole mess, so I don't know, that really kind of turned me off a little bit to this. Is that a big issue? No. Are you going to be disassembling it all the time? No, but it was annoying to me. So I feel like that would do well with a bit of a change. With that being said, I do like this knife a pretty good amount, and if the design really speaks to you, I think this would be a good pickup for you. It has kind of the action and the cutting and the materials to back up the good design. So if you really like it, I'd say go for it. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to go down, hit the like button, subscribe button, drop me a comment. Tell me what you think about this knife. Are you into it? Are you out of it? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you own it? How do you like it? Thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.